So I was doing some research the other day and I came across this principle that I feel like is great, that people need to include in their life and that even I need to include in my life. I never thought about this way, and it's called the pareto principle, and it's also known as the 80-20 rule. It kind of means that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And I know at first it's not going to make sense. Like, how does 80% come from 20%? Like, that don't add up. It don't make sense. But it's true that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And this principle is named after this man named Vilfredo Pareto. And he'd seen that 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of the population. It kind of makes sense after that. Like, 80% of Italy's land is owned by 20% of the population. This can apply to business. This can apply to productivity. This can apply to personal growth. This can apply to your relationships. You know, 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort that you're putting in. Think about it like this, like 80% of your success comes from 20% of your habits. A lot of people, we focus on the wrong 80%. We focus on the 80% of our habits and we think that, 20% of our success comes from that. You got to pivot your mindset. You have to prioritize the right 20% to get that 80% out of it. You have to prioritize the right things. You have to prioritize the right habits. You have to prioritize the things that truly matters and put all your 20% into that. Like the whole 20% you got, put into that, and you're gonna see 80% come back in results. You're gonna see 80% come back in success. You gotta remove distractions. You gotta focus on the high impact actions, the high impact, work, the high impact time that can truly transform your life. You have to focus on the right 20%. Distractions should not be in that 20%. Social media should not be in that 20%. External, things, females, boys, whatever, like, it should not be in that 20%. That 20% has to be all for you. It has to be straight work, straight grind, straight time, straight self-improvement, self-care, like all that stuff. That has to be in that 20%. Put all your effort into this 20% and let the 80% reflect that. Let the 80% be successful. Let the 80% be growth. If you think about it like in a real life example perspective, like business, 80% of the profits come from 20% of the customers. 80% of the profits that a business makes only comes from 20% of the customers. If you think about it like a fitness thing, like 80% of your results come from 20% of your exercise or your nutrition habits. 80% just comes from putting 20% in. So you got to focus your 20% on the right thing. If you think about it like in a social way, 20% of your relationships bring 80% of fulfillment in your life. The relationship you have with your friends, or if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, like 20% of that relationship fulfills 80% of your life. Like, the 20% that you're putting in is going to turn out to be 80% in the long run. You have to apply this 80-20 rule to your life. You got to focus on what you're putting your time, your energy into. Identify what actions or what things you do in your life that are going to give you the highest return, that are going to give you the most, beneficial return that you can get out of it. Like I said, like, distractions aren't going to do that for you. You have to focus on the things that are going to make you a better person, that are going to get you closer to your goals. Put all your 20% onto that. Put your time and your energy into those things, and those things are going to give you the highest return. They're going to give you that 80% that you're looking for. You have to double down on the crucial 20%. Double down on the crucial 20%. What are the key habits? What are the key skills that will bring the biggest returns, that will bring the biggest results? Like I keep saying, like, you have to put the 20% in the right spot. You have to be all in with it so you can get that 80% back that you're looking for. It equals to 100. You put 20% here, you're going to get 80% back, but it has to be to the right things. A lot of people are busy, but they're not productive. That 20% they're using maybe 10% distractions and 10% actually putting work in, putting time in. The 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, is going to force you to work smarter, not harder. You're putting all your effort into one thing, you're going to get 80% back in the way you're looking for. But if you spend 10% on distractions, if you spend 10% on things that aren't helping you be better, then you're not going to get the 80% back. You may get 50 back, but you're not going to get the full 80. Put 20 in the right spot. But just think about it like this, like, what are 20% of the things that will make the biggest difference in my life? What are 20% of the things that'll change my life for the better, that'll make me successful, that'll get me closer to my goals? Just 20%. Focus on that 20%. The 80% is going to come in return, I promise you. Just focus on that 20%. Just avoid wasting time on that less important 80%. That 80% is going to come. Don't waste time on it. Just put all your time, put all your eggs in one basket on a 20% that's making you better, that's going to benefit you, that's going to help you grow. Practice the 80-20 rule. that'll be all for this video, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you like this video, go hit that sub button. On with 200 subs. Appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.